Hello and welcome back to the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Skylar Hoke here. It's been a minute, Tom. Tom, how are we doing? I appreciate you and Baroff picking up in the last month. What have I missed?
What have you missed? Christopher Wrighton's become the best player in the world. Marco Peng looks like the second best player in the world. Other than that, obviously you would have watched Gosser win and take down Rory McIlroy yesterday in the Scottish Open, which is fun. We've come really close, like 3 or 4 times since you've been away, and just not got over the line. We're kind of me and Ryan, as were basically the rest of the world, were on fits last weekend without success. I tried to bet Rafa Cabrera Bello in the ISCO Championship, and that was a terrible decision. So we've had some up and downs. You sent in the 1,000-to-1 Italian amateur, right, for the Italian Open. He finished inside the top.
That was Baroff, all RB. He was all over it for that one.
Yeah. So we had that. I can't even remember his name now. That was how much of an impact he had on me. But it's been a fun 3 weeks or so. Really excited about the Open Championship now. Heard mixed reports that kind of the weather will be fine, and then Niall Lyons, who lives close to the course, said this morning the weather's just gone terrible. If you look at the kind of local police, they've put out a weather advisory this morning. Whether that carries on into kind of Thursday, Friday, I'm not sure, but it does seem to be we might get some changeable weather. So lots to kind of unpack. I don't know, Sky, how much of a good preparation the Scottish Open is, other than just being kind of closer to the Open venue and getting acclimatized.
I was literally, that was one of the conversations I want to have was like, if you're looking at correlation or link style golf, I'm really not checking last week as that. I mean, I don't fault anybody. I think it's good to get over there and play, get comfortable, and like just the turf conditions, a few different things, and wouldn't, not think anybody can't compete 2 weeks in a row, but we've seen people not play it. We've seen people miss the cut there or finish, like Morikawa did, just got comfortable and then made his way over, So I'm not too stressed over last week's results.
Plus, it's not like a pure links test. There's only 3 holes that are really links, and then the rest of it is kind of a normal PGA Tour stop almost, or DP World Tour stop. And I think it's one of those where, to me, I used it as can Marco Peng step up and play well in the big field? Can Christopher Wrighton step up, play well in the big field? Is Ryan Fox going to buck the trend of not playing very well in this tournament because he's just playing so well? Those kind of avenues of learnings, rather than worrying too much. Like Morikawa missed the cut. Everyone's in panic stations. Oh, he's not even going to have Billy Foster on the bag next week. Like, he will, and it won't expect anything to change. As you said, he kind of finishes like 60th before winning the Open the week later, and I think it's a bonus if you play well at the Scottish Open rather than anything too important.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the way I was really looking at it, and we'll talk some DP World Tour specifics, the way that we're approaching the show today is Tom and I, this is Monday. If we have a very keen bet high on the board, or guys that no matter what we're going to bet, maybe we'll do 1 or 2 of those to open up. And then we're going to kind of rapid fire through some DP World Tour guys and how we're interested in them, whether that's the betting markets, whether that's DFS, because there's lots of opportunities of some value plays out there, and kind of go through that specifically for the DP World Tour guys. And we'll probably close with a little bit of that thoughts on the Barracuda too. Now, if I'm looking at courses that I have just checked for me right now, obviously Open Championship history matters to me. Alfred Dunhill Links is probably the best thing we can find over there. Like I said, I'm not overly keen on the Scottish Open. I mean, we've had years where that course played very tough. I wouldn't fault you for including it, but the Irish Open is something that I'm definitely higher on than the Scottish Open when it comes to some of the history of what last year was Royal County Down. So got to, have some true links tests. And then the other one, Tom, I was going to ask you on was the one that Dan Brown won a couple years ago. I think they stopped that tournament, but the ISPS World Invitational, I think the last 2 years of it was played at Galgorm. So I included that because Dan Brown is arguably top 5 links player overseas right now. So he feels like somebody who, when you win in those conditions, something. So, and I think that's in Ireland 2 the last 2 times it's been played. So those were the ones when I'm looking at link stuff right now that mattered to me.
Yeah, so I think first, straight off the bat, I don't think the Galgorm Castle, other than just being an island, is like I don't think the course is too much to it. Now it does track that Dan Brown won that and then finished 10th in the Open Championship. So I think with that and the Irish Open specifically, like it's okay, look, you've played well in the country and you enjoy the test. There will be, even if it's more parkland, it will still have some links elements to it, just based on the fact that it's kind of in the UK and, you know, UK and Ireland. And so I think that helps. I think in terms of actually just assessing people's links pedigree, as you said, it's basically the Dunhill links now. That's the one we get every single year. The even the Open Championship, right? Like, it's so changeable how much of a true Open Championship it was. And that sounds ridiculous, but like, playing in St Andrews where it's wide open is so different to playing like True and all these sort of things, right? So you learn things, I think, by round thing, like who played well when the weather got really tough, you know, in round 2 True and Carnoustie in 2018, things like that. And I think you have to kind of go in between the weeds there. I've included a little bit of Irish Open just as a supporting factor for one of the players in terms of like he's turned up, relished it, but even those are not really true links tests anymore. So I think, as you said, Dunhill links, and right off the bat, I'll just talk about Ryan Fox. Look, like, he has been terrible in the Scottish Open. There's no getting away from it. Since it's been a renaissance, he's not been good at all. He's had one good week, and it was basically one good round, which to me kind of highlights that it's not really something I'd worry too much about, because if I think about some of the best links players in golf, he's one of them, and I think he is negatively impacted by the fact that it's not a true links test.
Yeah, and what he was on with Ben and Sam on their slice pod, saying, right, his favorite golf course in the world, or thinks he sets up super well. And I mean, your point about the different Open Championship venues, I think, is very important, because from memory standpoint, I mean, you know, we had the conditions last time Portrush was there, and, you know, listening to yourself and Niall on with Pat earlier this week, right? You know, it's a course where so much happens on and around the greens, but it's different than the St. Andrews version of that, where you're putting from around the greens, where you have, you know, the ability to be different styles there, where Portrush, all these greens are just kind of elevated, right? You're going to have to play iron shots into the air to be able to hold greens. Now, it's going to be damp, it's going to be wet. So will those greens hold, or is it just going to be hard to even be able to hit greens in regulation and have an around the green test? Now, when I think it's around the green test, I don't know, like, there's so many different ways to look at that. And can you really base predictions on how someone's going to play around the green? I think it's probably the most fluky stat of the bunch, right? So that's where, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking of it, who can really hit some good irons into greens like this and hold them, and then battle when conditions get tough. Like, that's kind of Lowry's mantra, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And going back, sorry, to the ISPS handler, just like doing a bit of research, I think that is actually a bit more links test. So I think that probably the ISPS handler probably is better than the Irish Opens that we've seen in recent things. So.
Well, and also I was doing Galgorm's the other one, right? Or is that the one I talked to? There's 2 courses. Yeah, that's what you just said, right? That one definitely has some links into it. So I don't mind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fine. I think there's 2 courses, right, in that ISPS handler. There's like the Galgorm and the Castle Rock, and I think the Castle Rock might be the more linksy. But yeah, I think it's one of those that you've just got to be sensible with it. Just go and look at the conditions of the week. To me, if you look at Open Championships, for someone like a Lowry, McIntyre, Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, whatever, like, we know they can deal with the changeable conditions, right? We know they can go low if they need to. We know they can deal with the bad weather. If you want a more American player, or someone that we haven't got a full body of work yet, you need to just go and look at limited rounds. Like, did they play well one round of the Alfred Dunhill links? Did they play well at St Andrews only? What, you know, so you have to look at those nuances. But yeah, I think ultimately, like you said, it's not going to be that same one where you're putting from kind of 100 feet and all those sort of things, you are going to be sort of up and down. I think that's why a lot of people like, Justin Thomas said it's his favourite open venue. I think it's going to appeal to that type of player. And I think if the weather doesn't get too destructive, it's going to be a case of just follow the form, guys. I don't think it's going to get too complicated. And I sort of spoke about one of the players, and we'll come on to him. Like, there was enough at Renaissance last week at Scottish Open that you go, right, okay, some of the shots you hit out of the rough, some of the shots you hit around the green are enough of an indicator that you can cope with an Open Championship layout, even if it isn't a true links test.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's hard because I feel like majors almost put a little bit more pressure on content creators in the sense of wanting to maybe be even more unique than we might approach it. You read through all the stats, you lean into who could it fit the most. Can you tell yourself a story? And then can you be one of the few people in the space on that same individual, right? I was looking back in 2019, I had bet both Bryson and JT despite terrible, Open Championship. I mean, even at that time, Bryson was, young, but like trying to build the story. I mean, I think you could turn around and say JT again this week, because could you imagine a better open setup to your point of this? No, probably not, right? For how good he is around the green, but form, a lot of questions you have. So I guess even transitioning, like you're clearly pounding the table for a specific golfer this week. Your favorite bet off of the top, who would it be?
Yeah, look, I think if I had just if you just asked me who was going to win, I think it was Jon Rahm. And I think for me that is bred out of, he's been fantastic for the last 4 major championships, going back to the 7th in this event last year, and then kind of no worse than 14th, right, all season. Looks like he's got a bit between his teeth. He's playing the Open Championship so well now. And I think what probably goes underrated for someone like Jon Rahm now is that if he wins this week, which is obviously something I expect is within his outcomes, he's 1 away from the Grand Slam. He's suddenly in that same picture with Jordan Spieth, where the two of them are just going to the PGA Championship every year trying to complete it. He's already got a second in the Open Championship. When Brian Harman won, he was tied second there. He's been third in 2021, 7th last year. He was 11th in this in 2019. He just looks to be back. I trust him to play all of the shots that he needs to play. I thought he coped really well with the kind of home pressures of trying to carry an event at LIV. I think that's potentially underrated. Like, Bryson would have had to be the face of LIV Dallas, and Rahm has to be the face of LIV Rather. I know Sergio's there as well, but there's something to that, right? Like Cam Smith will have to up his game when they go to Melbourne and something like you do have to host the event as well as play it. So I was quite impressed with that. And I just think he's in the right frame of mind now to win.
Yeah, I don't fault it one bit. I think you could bet a lot of guys at the top of the board and have very good arguments of it. I also think it's probably the most vulnerable of a major that you get for Scheffler and for Rory, right now in their current. And we saw that right in 19 with Rory here. Scheffler clearly frustrated last week on there, and seems to be when things get unpredictable. Because Scheffler couldn't win by 8 here, of course, right? Like that's definitely well within the realm of outcomes. The one that I can't stop thinking about, and if it's going to be, pulling the card on, because I think there's a problem at play, yet the ceiling is so good for, Ludwig Aubert. Like, could you see him winning this Open Championship?
Yeah, for sure. Like straight out of the bat. So I am probably the biggest, I don't want to say anti Aber, because I'm definitely not, but I'm probably the person that's as skeptical as you can get on him. And I believe he can win anything. Like that still comes into my range of outcomes. I think he can win any tournament he plays. He did miss the cut in the Open Championship last year. That was his first one, right? But he showed something last week. He finished 8th in the Scottish Open. I know that we say that, don't look too much into that golf course as kind of an indicator, but I don't need that from Ludwig at the moment. I just need proof that he's kind of back, and it feels like in the last 3 or 4 events he is. He's been underwhelming for sure, but he's hitting the ball better now, which is the main thing. Yeah,
he's hitting it well. He makes clear either mental mistakes or physical mistakes where 2 eagles on Sunday, yet misses 2 3-footers, triple bogey on Saturday. I don't know. I just feel like he's the one that I keep getting drawn to at the top of the board in the sense of the ceiling versus, and I agree with you. The market on him, like rarely have we been getting an odds discount because
Yeah,
the entire world thinks
they love
he's
him. Yeah,
the fourth best player probably in the world, right? Like if not, fifth at worst. And I don't think he is there, but man, I feel like in this stand, we may be getting the at least one discount in a while that you get before you see a big pop. So he's the one that I've been talking to. And the other guy in the mid range that you love here, I think makes just so much sense if you're just telling the story of probably who is by far the probably most outpriced versus or off priced, I guess, in a way from where his 2025 has been. And that's Russell Henley, right? So why are you so big on Henley this week?
yeah. I mean, look, a lot of it's kind of a oh, here we go again type mental thing on Henley, and I think that when I looked at it, like he finished fifth in the Open Championship last year. Brian Harman had finished sixth the year before he won the Open Championship. Both of them had kind of had middling finish. I think Harman had like a 19th and a 26th in the Open. Henley had a 20th and a 37th, but when he was 37th, he was 10th at halfway. They've kind of both proven now they can play in Open Championships. We know they can play and win. There's always this talk about the Honda Classic, PJ National being a good comp for Open Championship, for Open Championships, and Henley's obviously won that and got a handful of top sixes there as well. He's just playing unbelievable golf. That is essentially the biggest factor. And if I truly believe that it's going to come down to, okay, don't go too far away from the people that are just in form. It's not a case of having to look at, like, you obviously want someone that's got links pedigree and an Open Championship form, but we're saying that Henley's got that 12 months ago. So I don't want to get completely away from that. But just in reality, you look at Brian Harman. Like, not many people were calling for Brian Harman to win the Open in 2023, but he finished second at the Travellers, ninth at the Rocket Mortgage, and 12th at the Scottish Open, and then won the Open Championship. Henley's coming in fifth at the Memorial, 10th at the US Open, and second at the Travellers. It's a very, very similar prep. Has got the same thing of like he was, and different to Brian Harman. Brian Harman finished sixth at the Open the year before he won because he had a really good final day. Henley was involved all week. Henley had a chance to win that going into Sunday, right? And quite easy to forget because we had this kind of showdown between Xander and Rose and Billy Horschel, and Dan Brown was there for a long time. There was always different stories, and Henley was kind of plodding along. Now, the biggest caveat is, do you ever expect Russell Henley to win a golf tournament ever? Is the first thing, right? Like he seems to find a way to lose them, and then he has to chip in to kind of beat Morikawa when he does. Ultimately, it's a numbers thing. He's the sixth best player in the world. Data Golf and OWGR agree on it for the which is quite rare, and he's 66 to 1, and then he's just playing so well. So I think as someone that's proven he can play well in the win, has proven that he can play well in an Open Championship, he's done it 2 or 3 times now, and especially last year, I think it's just the wrong price.
Yeah, I have a hard argument against anything of which you said. I think the final day story too that you mentioned, that was one thing that I was thinking about for 2019 look backs.
Yeah.
That Sunday at the Open Championship was one of the drastic splits that we've seen. I mean, if you look back in there, like the Browns of the day on Sunday were literally the first tee times. I think, Molinari, Bob McIntyre, who backdoored his way in there, Hatton, all those guys were completely non-factors in the tournament. So I think it's valuable to look at who was, in the mix after 54 holes. I mean, obviously, the story is JB Holmes shot 100 on the Sunday, right? But like, just looking into those guys who may have been in the mix for the first 3 rounds versus how Sunday went is something that you and I think, kind of feathering our caps, always make sure we take a peek at, because 18 holes doesn't always tell the whole story when you can get even another 54 a part of that. 2 other guys that I really just kind of wanted to briefly talk about before we went to the DP World Tour, guys. Justin Rose getting a ton of early life in the betting markets action there. Clearly played awesome for the first time probably since Augusta, right?
Yeah.
Now you get him in an Open Championship. Seems to turn himself up when it comes to majors. Are you in or out of Justin Rose this week?
Reluctantly out. I've just been here. I've been here. I had that long-term bet on him at the Masters. Then thought I'd just go right back to the well with him at the PGA Championship because he has such great form there, and he didn't do it right. And I just, it's been so bad for so long. I understand the idea that, he's only really cares about the majors and he'll warm up for that and then he'll play well in it. You do have to be good as well. Like, you do have to be in form, and it feels like last week could have been a bit of a false dawn. I mean, he did rank 8th in approach and 10th, I thought, top 5 in tee screen. Like, he was good. The foundations were great. I just think if he finishes 27th last week, no one bats an eye. And I don't know if we should overreact to finishing that high up at the Scottish Open. Like, are people suddenly backing Nicolai Højgaard because he backdoored into it?
Right. I'm not there. I would love to see it, right? I think we're both, Justin Rose fans, but yeah, I'm okay, especially, when it comes
to... He actually shot 63 on Sunday, nothing else, right? Like, it's as simple as that. And we're as you said, it's the first good result he's had since the Masters, and it's actually all down to one round. So I get it. I understand why people get excited about Justin Rose. I am the poster boy of getting excited about Justin Rose. I'd love for him to win it. There's probably only one other player I'd like to see him win it more than him, and it's Lee Westwood. But I'm just not there from a betting perspective.
Okay, that's the one. And the other one that I at least thought was worthy of some conversation, piquing my interest. Again, this is Monday. I'm not really settled in a lot of spots on where I'm thinking, but Jordan Spieth was standing out to me. I think if I think of Open Championship golfers, a little creativity, Spieth was one coming off of the withdrawal at the Travelers Championship, right? He woke up with a cranked neck after, he tee off? Yeah, he did play, I think, Thursday, and then withdrew Friday or late Thursday that day. Says he's all good. Wife just had a baby, I think 2 days ago, last week. So a little nappy factor going in his favor. But Spieth has shown a ton of life when it comes to iron play. And again, that creativity, I think, is something that super interests me in this course here, that he could get into the mix. And even at his worst, the Open Championship was something where Spieth could turn up at. I mean, I can remember, was it Portrush? I'm trying, like, in my memory, where did he end up finishing that week in 19?
He was in 8th place going into Sunday, and he finished...
Yeah, he finished 20th.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was still when he was still playing pretty well, I think, that year. Nothing as good as what he had been. Like, he had kind of had that fall off 17 or 18, 19, 20. So to still show up at Portrush, I thought that was pretty good for him. And then that's when he came back to life in 2021, finished runner-up again to Morikawa that year. But I think Spieth is somebody that I always dream about at the Open Championship, and he's starting to show a lot of what he was at his peak. So he is somebody I'm very much interested in. I guess before we go into DP World Tour, guys, can I get one? Do you have anything on Spieth before I ask you another question?
Just thoughts on Spieth. Like, 11 starts in the Open Championship, he's made 11 cuts. Like, that's just rare in itself. Like to have that baseline in an Open Championship, in a tournament that's notorious for just giving people bad tee times or getting on the wrong side of, as you said, round splits or anything like that, for him to just keep going. And, the worst finish he's had is the 44th, which was on debut, and he was actually like 11th at halfway. So since he's won it at Birkdale, 9th, 20th, 2nd, 8th, 23rd, 25th, there is a very good floor for Spieth. I don't know if he's there yet to go in and win a major at the moment with just the way he's playing, let alone the Open Championship. But to your point, if it turns into a real links test and it gets quite, it all comes down to creativity, he has to be top of your list. Like, it does allow people out of form even to come out and play well in this tournament, right? And he's not out of form. He's playing pretty good.
Yep. I think there's going to be a discount of the withdrawal, missing last week. Maybe name's just not top of the radar. So he's somebody that stands out to me. Yeah. Let's each pick one LIV golfer that we're intrigued. I could honestly probably pick like 5 that I'm interested in.
Not Jon Rahm, because we've
correct. Yes.
So I've bet Tyrrell Hatton as well. But let's go a little bit further down. Like, I think the biggest conversation for me personally about LIV Golf this week is Patrick Reed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the toughest decision. So I left Patrick Reed out in favour of Russell Henley, essentially. He finished 10th here in 2019, and that was his standout kind of performance at the time, I believe, in the Open. Yep, it still is the best finish he's had so far. He finished, I think, 12th at St Andrews as well a few years prior. He has to make a run at this to get on the Ryder Cup team, I think. And I think that's really important.
I think he's got to win it.
Yeah, and like he is the type of player that, you know, we hear all these kind of like, oh, he's going to be motivated. He is the person that is motivated by those sort of things. So, one, I think he has that. We talk about Jordan Spieth and how great he is. The reason he's so good at Augusta is because he's so creative. The reason Patrick Reed's so good at Augusta is he's creative, right? Doesn't seem to get too down or relish tough conditions. So I think Reed is probably the biggest talking point, and I've just said no in the end.
Okay, if I'm picking one, I think I'm betting this golfer.
Okay.
I could pick a few. I really could.
Let's talk it out and sound it off.
Okay, so the first one I'm quite confident that I'm going to be selecting is Dustin Johnson.
Yeah, so I knew you were going to say Dustin Johnson, so that's why I was kind of egging you into it. So
yes, so, you probably could pick my other one that I'm going to pick too. So we'll start with Dustin right here. Okay, I mean, the story of DJ is now with LIV stats that we get, right? We can see his game seems to be in a better place, right? He's coming off of, I mean, virtually not caring what he had last year. He had a win, a 5th, and a 7th, right? 2025, his last 4 starts, 7th, 13th, 10th. It was probably his best stretch of golf he's played. Irons look to be unbelievable right now for him. Missed the cut in 3 straight majors. But the one that, if I think of it, again, last year was really bad for him on LIV overall. He won, second event, and they had one other top 10 from March on. Shows up at the Open Championship last year, and he's well within the mix all week long until Sunday, right? I think he was 13th at the halfway point or 15th, 74, 69, 72, to finish T31. Been quite strong in his Open Championship career, right? 5 top 10s to his name, back-to-back in 21 and 22. That's when he's kind of, on 21, he was kind of the peak of his game in some ways. In 22, he tailed off a little bit, but still seeing that Open Championship performance last year gives me some confidence on some major drift that we're getting. Now, does DJ care at all? No, his around the green game seems pretty putrid. That's probably because he doesn't practice either. Or to the degree he used to, but he's the one calling my name when you're just doing typical statistical research this week.
So I think with Dustin Johnson, there's 2 things that can be true, right? Is that when people say he doesn't care, he doesn't. Like he doesn't care enough to fix holes in his game, like you said, around the green. Right, like I think once a week starts going bad for him, he doesn't really care. He's like, look, I've got this guarantee. I'll still be on the boat at the end of the week. But I think he still cares enough that if he's playing well, he wants to take advantage of that. If he gets in the mix, he will hang on. The Open Championship has been unbelievable for him. He should have won in St Andrews the year that Zach Johnson won. I think he was in the mix. Halfway, I'm pretty sure he was a leader, and then there was a horrible weather kind of switch. He did nearly win when Darren Clarke won in 2011. This is right at the start of kind of Dustin Johnson being good, right? Like it's, this is so many years on now. I mean, I think he'd obviously won kind of 5 times on the PGA Tour at that point, but he wasn't as the established player he is now. So the Open Championship has been a really good spot for him, and as you said, he's showing those signs of improvement. It would not surprise me at all. Like everyone's just looked at 3 missed cuts and God, he doesn't care anymore. Like from the majors. Same with Cam Smith, and I think he's the other one that we kind of want to talk about. But I think there's life in him yet, and the odds are really big.
Yeah, he's the one that, I'm thinking of the courses of his game, just the huge high ball flight that he has. Could he somebody go out and just pepper greens this week and take advantage? Now it's going to be rainy. I don't know if it's going to be windy with the rain, but I mean that ball is going to be knocked down a bit in the conditions. But he just might have that strike. And Cam Smith actually isn't the other one that I want to talk about. Now I do think we probably should after this next golfer go to Cam Smith,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking back to a golfer we hit. She was probably 21. I think it was a 21 Irish Open, or maybe 22, in terrible weather conditions. A golfer who used to always show up at links style tracks and just be amazing. I mean, I think about Lucas Herbert in this spot. Like he's the one that of golfers that I think, man, me personally, that I'm bummed out that we don't get to see him compete against the best more, just because they still had a lot of their, I know they're older, but potentially peak years still. Like him and Burmeister are two that are like, man, I would have loved to see them play in the PGA Tour more. But Herbert, I mean, Burmeister also has shown up in Open Championships, but Herbert has too. I just think he's somebody that to show up, they both qualify through the Open qualifying series. I don't care if they're playing bad on LIV. Like DJ, I like to see that. These other guys, I guess I don't care really. But I'm pretty intrigued at what both of those guys could do this week.
So I think with like you mentioned, you don't really care with Herbert, you do with DJ. Like I think there's DJ and Brooks that you go, look, you just want to see the form because their absolute floor should be finishing 10th, 20th, or whatever. If they then finish 5th, 7th, then you're in good form, right? And that's what Brooks did before he won, before he should have won the Masters and all these sort of things. Herbert is an interesting one. So him, Burmeister, and Westwood all came over to the final qualifiers and won them, right? So 3 of the 4 final qualifiers were won by LIV golfers. Justin Walters won the other one over another LIV player, I think. So it was almost a clean sweep. His caddy is kind of got a lot of links pedigree, Herbert. He's obviously grown up on the Sandbelt, playing a lot of stuff in Australia. When he won on the PGA Tour, that was really windy, right? That was in Bermuda. So if we just think about, and you said obviously the Irish Open, if we just think about what he's good at, it's the perfect sort of test for him. So yeah, I can see it from a profile perspective. It's just whether we think he's quite got it at the moment, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess you brought up Cam Smith anymore. I mean, it's good to see. Same thing like DJ. It's just nice to see some form, and then you trust him at an Open Championship.
Just life, right? Like I finally started. Like I generally thought he was the almost more laid back version of DJ, who just really doesn't care. And then you look at it, kind of 5th in Mexico, 7th in Korea, 7th last week in Valderrama, 13th in Dallas. And ultimately, if you look at it, his iron play has just been shambolic. It's as simple as that. His iron play has just been absolutely awful. And sometimes we have to actually ask ourselves, are people just going, like, no one questioned whether Bryson cared. It was just that he couldn't keep his iron straight, right? And I think, like, ultimately, sometimes we just, because we don't see them as much on coverage now, we just put it down to, they don't care, they're on LIV. And actually, they're just struggling with that part of their game. And I don't know if Cam Smith can turn it around enough to win a major championship, but he's certainly of the ilk and of the talent level and creativity that if he is starting to show a bit of life, that this is the right tournament for him.
Yeah, in 2019, he wasn't really a player yet, right? To the degree, I guess 18 wasn't bad for him. Let's see, 18 he won that Australian PGA earlier on in the year. Okay, I guess 18 he broke out of the Masters, finished 5th there. But 19 wasn't as good of a year from him following up on it. And, that was his T20 here. And I believe through 54 holes, he was inside the top 10, 12, T12 at 54 holes, T5 at the halfway point. And he was that week, he was 200-1. So, again, somebody who just kind of showed up. And then Sunday he fell off to T20, but he probably was caught up in a little bit of that wind. Yeah, I mean, I'm clearly intrigued. I think he's like $6,800 on DraftKings this week too. So if you're looking into some spots, there's a lot to look at LIV. But we're 35 minutes in, and we haven't mentioned a DP World Tour golfer. So we need to transition over. And maybe we just go kind of rapid, quick, and maybe we go back and forth each talking about some golfers. So if you had to say first DP World Tour golfer that comes to your mind right now for this week that you're in on, who is it?
Marco Peng, like without a shadow of a doubt. Like I was asking myself last week, is this a false dawn? Is he just very good at the DP World Tour level, despite the fact that we'd seen the 28th at the PGA Championship, and his, as you pointed out at the time, not only his first major start in the US, but his first start ever in the US. He then comes back the following week and he's second at halfway in Sadal, finishes 25th. He was 21st in Italy, where he's 14th at halfway. He led after round 1 in Munich, was 4th going into the final round, finished 11th. That would all kind of signify that he can't get 4 rounds together. And then last week, he just never leaves the top 5 in a really, really strong field. And this was going back to that point, Sky, of do I care about Renaissance Club or do I care about the Scottish Open? And I care about the Scottish Open. How do these DP World Tour players take their opportunity once these PGA Tour players are added to the mix? And do I think that Marco Peng could have won the Barracuda this week? Yes, I do. So I'm glad that he's getting a chance to go into the Open Championship or the ISCO Championship last week instead of the Scottish Open. It's great that he's had the chance to do that last week, prove to us he's on it, because the skill set's there. And if you go back to his amateur career, like this was very much expected. He was really highly talked about. He'd won, I think, the Scottish Amateur that I talked about last week. Like we had that kind of insight that he could play links golf. The recent indications are that he's missed 2 cuts in the Open Championship, but he is a completely different player the last 2 years. He hadn't even won on the Challenge Tour at that point. He's now he's a winner on both, right? So I love where Peng's game's going, and I actually think it's strong to say that he can win this, but I think he can get in the mix. Like if Dan Brown can get in the mix, Marco Peng can get in the mix.
I can't agree with you anymore. For being honest, we've been high on them all year long. The reason why you and I do this is him, like players like him. You know what I mean? Where we get on him early, we get a feel of his game last year. He joins us in the betting streets for 3 months, and then he has to serve a suspension, and then he comes back, and he's the best player on the DP World Tour, arguably right now, and he is going to be so good on the PGA Tour, so good. Like he's a top 5 driver in the world. What I wrote up last week when I wrote him up was, I said hot take, but I don't think it's even close to hot. But he will be in the same conversation. This is coming off of Pac Eater's win, at Detroit of ball drive, of being able to drive the ball. You know what I mean? Like that conversation is those two clearly are as good as anybody in the world with it there. I'm looking through some of his earlier stuff. I believe he also won in Ireland when he was on the Euro Pro Tour. Yeah. He won the 2019 Prem Group Irish Masters. Gotta assume that's in Ireland.
I think I looked to see if it was like a real links test. I don't think it was, but again, just local kind of Irish form. Fine.
But then he finished 10th at Royal County Down last year too. There's so much to like. So I think he's the clear one, and I think the clear 2 is Christopher Wrighton, right? I mean, we mentioned that they're the best 2 players in DP World Tour golf. I mean, Wrighton is a phenomenal putter, and he played as good as he could last week without making a single thing. He didn't make much last week. I think he was neutral on the greens, which for him is a poor week. You know what I mean? That also played completely in the favor of Bombers last week. So I can understand that, Portrush has a little bit more trouble in play now. I mean, there's out of bounds, but you got to really, pull the Rory on the first hole type of thing, right? But I think Wrighton is so good. So good, you can trust them both. And Wrighton, does he have as much links pedigree as Penn, as you'd say, right? That's the one whole pick.
We don't know it. And this was the thing, is like they weren't going to be true links indicators last week, but you would see enough of it. And I literally saw Peng hit the kind of shots I wanted to hit an Open Championship. I didn't see that from right hand, not because I don't think he can do it, just because he wasn't in the coverage. But to me, like, he's just playing too well to ignore. Like, to me, he would have been slightly disappointed to finish 13th last week. And that is a ridiculous level to get to in what is essentially a PGA Tour event, right? So again, like Peng, they're both expected to do this. If you go back through their amateur careers, I think Rytan was pretty close to Hovland. Like Penge was, really touted as the next big English hope, right? And it's taken them a little while to get there. And I keep harboring on this point, and it's going to get boring to people that listen to this often. But I do think COVID's got a huge part to play in that. Like Penge and Rytan are both 27 years of age. So they would have been what, 25?
No, less than that. It was
23,
right? Yeah, so it's probably 23 years old.
Yeah, 23 years old when COVID happens. They're both trying both their formative years getting on tour. They've both bounced around. Because we've heard their name for a little while, we think they've been disappointing. Now they're on their full kind of path and trajectory. They're the players we expected them to be. So you have to just really quickly align yourself. And I think with Marco, it's been adjusted to in the market. He is 100 to 1 as opposed, or you can get 200 to 1 in the US, but generally speaking, 100 to 1 for all the place terms in the UK. Rytan's still being hung out there at a far bigger price. Now, with Rytan, we haven't got the 28 for the PGA Championship to lean on, right? Like this is his first major start since missing the cut as an amateur at the US Open in 2018. But enough, like what else has he got to face other than what he faced at the Scottish Open last week? There's nothing else. So that, to the point of people, I'm saying don't look too much into the form at the Scottish Open. I just want you to see how they reacted in a better field. I don't care what they did on the course itself. And both of them reacted really well, Penge especially.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Clear 1-2 to me. The third one, and again, we'll pick up a little bit of pace. I trust Jordan Smith a lot this week. Jordan Smith was another, played pretty dang well last week, showed a lot of life with his short game. I think it's now 5 events in a row in the country of Ireland that he's finished inside the top 10. Mm-hmm. Irish Open, I believe it's 3 straight, and then both those ISPSs. He was there. I think he was 20. What was his Open Championship here? Didn't he make the cut here in 19? If I look at it, 2019. No, he didn't play in this one. I think I was looking at his Open Championship history is, I guess, the one thing you could talk a little bit. I think his best finish in the Open is T41 with a T47. Yeah. But he's played well at the Alfred Dunhill Links. He was top 10 at Royal County Down too. I just think there's a lot. I was nervous for him. He first really impressed. Obviously, he's been really good this year, right? Yeah. He's been strong. But I was skeptical going into the U.S. Open. And even though it was only a T61, there was enough there that showed me, okay, like he's starting to transfer it a little bit more, and then to go runner-up, in Germany, and then T22 last week while making 0 putts, but being really good around the green. I don't know. I just have some faith in Smith this week.
And I think it's the manner in which he lost last time against Dan Brown. Like he shot 67 on Sunday. Dan Brown just played better than him. I know he did bogey a couple of back 9 holes, but he wasn't terrible. It wasn't like he shot 74 in contention like we're used to with Smith. And perennial contender, not very much not a winner. But as you said, form at Dunhill Links, form in Ireland, trust him to get in the mix.
And then losing to Dan Brown. I think Dan Brown's the next one on my list. Like, what are your thoughts on him overall this week?
So I bet him at 500 to 1 to win this when he was on the 16th hole in Munich, where he hadn't quite sewn it up. He was going to. I actually think Dan Brown's underrated still, and we've been talking about him now for a little while. So he was 10th for the Open Championship last year. He was a first-round leader. He was 2 shots back after rounds 2 and 3, so he's really in the mix. But he's only 30, and he's kind of already. He's won this year and lost in the playoff. He's won before that, I think, in his first season. So he's only his third full season, or into his third full season on the DP World Tour.
His win was in Ireland too, at that course. Yeah.
So 2-time winner already. I just think he's overlooked. He's got top 4 finishes at the Irish Open and Valderrama last year as well. Inside the top 16 in terms of strokes going off the tee, despite not being the biggest hitter, right? Like he's just accurate. So I really like Dan Brown.
That's kind of the clear 1 through 4 for me. Now I think it gets speculative unless you have others who jumped to you. I mean, there's a few to discuss, I think, but of those that I would confidently be looking for in certain markets, I think that's where my line is drawn. Where do you land?
Yeah, I think that for me is the ones where I think, do you know what? Like, I imagine Laurie Cantor's worth a discussion, but
Yep.
I,
Yep.
I don't have too much confidence in him at the moment.
Yep, I agree. He would be probably the next. I guess he's a PGA Tour player now, but Tristan Lawrence also falls in that similar bucket.
Yeah,
Did the same esque of Dan Brown last year, right at the Open Championship, and then shows up and does another, type of performance like that at the U.S. Open, and then kept it rolling into Detroit the next week. You look at him; he has two top. I guess this is when I was at the K Club or Mount Juliet. Is Mount Juliet more? And I got to 20 under that week. I don't know if that one's more linksy or not, but so he has played well in Irish Opens on top of that Open Championship.
yeah. The one that's what I guess it again is a PGA Tour player this season, but generally speaking for DP World Tour stuff in the past, like Antoine Rosner has played in 2 Open Championships.
On my list. Yep.
Yeah, like played well in both of them, really. I mean, he was 59th from debut, but he was 33rd going into fun around 20th 2 years ago, wasn't he? With when Harman won, and he was 4th after round 1 and round 3, playing
Yep.
really steady golf. So I think someone like Rosner can really not necessarily have the upside that Peng and Raitan potentially have this week, but I think a good play in DFS for sure.
Well, that's the thing about him in DFS is he scores. So like
Yeah,
last week, I think he was second in birdies
yeah.
while finishing 20th in the tournament, and that matters more. So I plan on having some Rosner. He's the one that's I mean, we're starting to stretch, just talk
Well,
international PGA Tour players. That's the problem we could get into
yeah,
here.
I wrote down Daniel Hillier, who missed the cut last week, but when I spoke to Pat, he finished top 20 in last year's Open Championship. He was second to Tyrrell Hatton at the Dubai Desert Classic for the start of the year. So that was with Rory, Reed, McIntyre, Fleetwood, etc. Top 20s at the Dunhill Links and Wentworth to suggest he can play in good fields. Would have grown up playing in New Zealand and Australia, where it's all links golf courses or links conditions, I should say. So I think Hillier is of interest in terms of like someone that could just make the cut at big odds. And then I think like people will obviously talk about John Parry, but I think we'll just stick to him being back on the DP Tour for a while.
Yeah, John Perry was the other one that I had profile at least pulled up. I thought he was pretty good at the Scottish Open last week, right? Hit his irons really well.
Yeah.
He also, it was another one of the Ireland events in which he showed up on too. So he was somebody that he's been around, right? And I thought Niall wrote up on Perry. I think Niall bet Perry this week and said he's got some good friends that live at Portrush that plays it quite a bit or feels comfortable around here. So I definitely have some interest in Perry too, because he has been, I mean, probably going to get a PGA Tour card, right? I mean, he's 7th. He just cooled off so much. He started so hot, and Mauritius was the wind and kind of the windy conditions, right?
Yeah, I think he's had the best part of his season. It's now going to get to the tournaments he's not going to contend at, and the difference is I trust Marco Penge to compete at Wentworth. I don't trust John Parry's compete at Wentworth. Like, that's where we are now with. And I love John Parry. I've bet him a couple of times this season, and he's paid off at each way odds. Like, it's not anything against him. I just think
he's hit his irons really good. The more I look at it, I mean, that's 5 consecutive weeks of making the cut and gaining over a stroke on the field every single time.
Yeah, it's a great asset to have, and it could get him around the course. There's a limit to him. I think. I could be right.
I'd just be curious. I mean, it's tough because even last week, I mean, we might have been early to Penge and Wrighton in the sense that we preview the show. We bet Penge. I bet Penge when he won earlier this year. They both hold significant ownership last week in DFS, even because their profiles, at that course specific were awesome.
Yeah.
Data Golf clearly knows what they're doing when it comes to international golfers too. So there was no sleeping on either of those golfers in that way. And they're just not priced up enough for like this week because it was priced before this tournament. So they're probably going to be very popular once again, which again, I don't mind leaning into that still, thinking how good they are. Like Perry's cheaper than both of them. So he's going to be like a 1%er type of guy. But those were the list of DP World Tour guys for me. And I know we're not coming off with anything completely out of left field on that. But what about Barracuda? We don't have to spend a significant amount of time, but at the IS or the ISO ICO, that DP World Tour guys were brutal. Just outside of Manuel Elvira, nobody sniffed a thing. I bet a few of them last week. Kind of think we could go right back to the well on some of them. Did you have any high level thoughts? I think this course here is going to be bomb it, putt it, and score. We saw Nick Dunlap do that last year here. So anybody stand out to you when you kind of go down that rabbit hole?
If we were going down that, I'd kind of think about Todd Clements, who was 21st at the Italian Open. He did miss the cut in Munich, but got 10 shots better in the second round, then missed the cut in Scotland, so it's not like he had a chance last week. I keep kind of following Jens Dantorp. I think that it's been really steady form for him, and we've seen people go from kind of like 28, 28, 28, 25th, 22nd to win. I think he's in that kind
of... The Gauder up right there, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's got that ability to do that. Those are the two that come to mind immediately for me at the ISCO. At the Barracuda.
Yeah, so Barracuda reminder is Stableford scoring. So birdies basically count double, eagles big time. So again, maybe some of the wildness of that can bring in guys. When I thought about like bomb it and putt it type of things, Ivan Quintero Gutierrez came to my list of it. Angel Ayora, I'm pretty confident in the way Ayora's playing golf right now. Believe he. Oh, wait, did he back out of the event? He was supposed to be in this event. Dang, he might have withdrew.
Yeah.
I would double check that, but he was somebody that I thought. But I mean, Quintero was the longest DP World Tour player in the field when it comes to distance. Did make the cut at the ISCL last week, was 20th at the BMW International. So he was somebody that I thought could stand out a little bit. Scary that I would even consider this bet, but Callum Shinkwin also kind of fit the bill a little bit of just hit it a mile. Now short game for him is absolutely putrid, so I don't really have a ton of confidence in there.
I'm just looking down the list of like birdie makers last week, thinking, like Rosner, he keeps making those birdies, and I mean, you just don't get it. We just had no one step up and made birdies last week at the ISCO. You had Jack Senior made 16, and he is the highest placed regular DP World Tour player in terms of alongside Manuel Elvira in terms of birdies. Maximilian Kiefer had 14, Quintero, as you mentioned, had 14, and then he got really grim, like Purcell got 13. You mentioned Shinkwin, he got 9. He just had one eagle that kind of held him out. So the scoring was just absolutely dreadful.
Elvira had played good too. Like, there was 3 top 20s in his previous 5 events, so it wasn't out of left field, but that was it.
Yeah, and that's just opposite to what we've seen. Like, even when players haven't been in form, we've seen it at the ISCO and the Barracuda that these guys have come over and play really well, or whatever they were called previously. They've all kind of, and I was so confident that Davis Bryant was going to do something based on the fact he was playing so well.
Me too.
Didn't even bother playing this week because he was so disgusted with himself probably last week. It does feel like it would be almost disingenuous for me to suggest that a DP World Tour player is going to win this, because it just doesn't look likely after last week. That Dantorp and Clemens are the ones I've kind of looked at briefly.
Yeah, last year there wasn't a single DP World Tour golfer inside the top 10 of this event. Lucas Nemec finished T13. Jaden Scaper was T13. So yeah, I mean, my list is long of guys that I'm interested in, but Quintero really, if Ayora is not in the field, Quintero is the sole DP World Tour guy that I'm kind of keen on just from that ability to hit it a mile. So,
Just like
um,
I looked to like Wiesberger, I thought was improving. He's gone completely off the ball. Andrew Wilson has been driving the ball nicely. He's coming off the back of 3 missed cuts. Like the players that I sort of relied on, Alex Fitzpatrick not playing great. I know he's obviously just played in Scotland rather than over here, but just not playing well. It's kind of scary how badly the players are coming into form with this. It feels like they haven't quite got the schedule right this time around for the DP World Tour guys into these kind of mixed events.
yeah, I mean, it's disappointing in that way. But the other side is I feel really good about the class graduating from the DP World Tour headed to the PGA Tour next year.
Really
And
good.
maybe because it's more profile based. Like I don't think they're as good potentially as some of the like if you just went on like median, like I think previous years are probably better than this year's, but I think there's some really high ceiling ways that this class could play out.
I would agree with that. And then when you probably look into it, it probably isn't that much different. Like if you think about the fact that Campio and Bjork and all those kind of people have gone there in the past, you're probably quite surprised about some of the average players that have gone over there in the last couple of years. And it feels weird because it's, Parry, Haotong Lee, Hillier, all those people. They've changed it's really frustrating. They haven't got the PGA Tour logo next to these guys now, have they, on the Race to Dubai? They're doing it with that global tour pool thing. And that's a different thing altogether. But I'm pretty sure they're the same people that would qualify for the PGA Tour card.
I am pretty confident in that too. I guess the real thing is like those top three golfers, Penge, Wright and Cantor. To
Yeah.
me, all three of those guys could win a PGA Tour event right now at the right place. You put them in the Rocket Classic right now, probably betting all three of those golfers. That's
I honestly believe, like, as much as we like jump on Jordan Smith as well, like I honestly think he can win a PGA Tour event. Like I could fundamentally see him going out to PGA National and winning. Like in terms of just ability, right? Haotong Lee can probably win any tournament he ever plays in. He just needs to be right at the time. So I guess
I really wanted something for Haotong last week because he's an Open Championship player.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you look at it now, you go, right, opposite profiles, Cougar, Parry, both rely on accuracy more than anything. Hillier isn't necessarily playing as well as this ranking suggests. Sean Norris, you don't necessarily think he's going to do something on the PGA Tour. But as you said, the top three guys, I mean, I genuinely, it's very easy to get carried away, and maybe we are, but I genuinely think Penge has got top 20 upside.
Oh, I 100% agree. And maybe that's just getting out in front of it for it. But I think it's definitely something that if he's in the mix this week, neither of us are batting an eye that he could win this thing, which I think probably puts a good bow on the episode. Because if we're planting our flag on one guy, it's definitely him.
Penge. Yeah, like if you take anything away from the DP World Tour specific version of this Open Championship, I've said it on Pat's show now, I've said it here, I genuinely do believe that Penge can contend. I'm on the wavering fence of can he actually win a golf tournament out of this magnitude? But I think he can. The way he struts around, the way he plays, the persona, I think he can win one.
Yeah, he's fun. And I thought he could have won yesterday too. I mean, he honestly is probably kicking himself because he didn't birdie the short drivable par 4 on the front, and then he didn't birdie 16.
Right?
Yeah. You put a little bit of pressure on Goddard on those. You can get in a playoff at 15 pretty easily, I think. And who knows there? And we haven't said anything about Goddard the whole episode, but unbelievable. I love Chris Goddard. It's super, super cool to see him succeed and to do it paired with Rory. Like he gives off, and everyone's saying this, and I get it. Maybe it's the Nike get up, maybe it's the way he plays, but man, there's a lot of Brooks vibes to him early on, and it's awesome. I really like Chris Goddard.
He had the black Nike outfit, and everyone was saying about Patrick Reed, didn't they? Because he had the kind of necklace on as well.
Yeah.
So the little buka that Reed used to wear. But I was really impressed with him. And to the point of like Peng will be kicking himself. Rory was in the same position to put the pressure on, didn't? Do you know what I mean? Like And that's when you start to go, hang on a minute, this like Fitzpatrick, the whole world was on Fitzpatrick. I was on Fitzpatrick, wouldn't get involved. He wouldn't get in the party. Nikolai Højgaard came too late. Rose came too late. Aberg was never there. Like, we're asking Penge to do something that none of those guys could achieve, right? Including Rory McIlroy. So the fact that Gottschalk was able to hold them off didn't show enough of a chink in his armor to give them an opening. I'm really... Like, I can't remember a time where someone's really contended the Scottish Open recently and not gone on to be a pretty good golfer. I guess like Lingmerth finished like third and stuff, but we're talking about kind of like Xander winning it, Rory winning it, Bob McIntyre winning it. It's a good indicator of talent.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Tom Kim at an early age compete in it. We saw Minwoo Lee win it. You know, as much as I think the course kind of stinks and what I would like it to be for a lead up in it, it still was a really good event and gives us a feeler for this week. And I know we covered a vast majority of the bottom end of the field, but hopefully gave you guys some ideas what we're thinking. Like Tom mentioned, he is also on. They recorded with Niall and with Pat. I almost said Niall Horan. Niall, it's Lyons, right, in his last name. Yeah. With Pat this week to preview the Open Championship. So make sure for all those that follow Mayo Media Network to give that a listen too. And for all of our audio listeners, you can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix, available across all podcast platforms. Again, super appreciative, Tom, of yourself and Baroff filling in. Baroff would be remiss if we didn't give out his 5-1 amateur selection. We couldn't go this far in. What did he say? He said 5-1 for Filip Jakubic, who for low AM. There's some interesting AMs in this too, but I think Filip just won the amateur championship or was right there in the mix for one of the overseas amateur contests. So just thank you again for filling in. The DP World Tour is off next week, and then we hit kind of our stride, right? We'll go right into following that. Which one's up first? It's going to be, let me double check. I say stride for us, but we go to Scotland, right? The new event, the Nexo Championship.
Yeah, I've not heard much about that, and I don't know much about Trump International, so that'd be fun. I assume he's going to get some good players in that.
Yeah, I would think so too. And then we always like the Danish event, into Denmark, and then it's kind of the regulars, right? British Masters, Crans-Soucier, Irish Open, Wentworth, and then Open de France, leading right into the Ryder Cup, coming back to the Dunhill Links. Like, it's really, really good for 6-7 weeks in a row there.
This is where the DP World Tour, probably slightly after the next couple of weeks, but when it's decision time for the Ryder Cup teams, you see all the guys coming over to Wentworth, and you see some of them coming to Crans and things like that, and over played there and won there. Like, that's where it gets really important. So looking forward to it. It should be a great run. Glad to have you back, Sky. Always a pleasure to do it with Baroff as well. He's been great, and I'm sure people have enjoyed him filling in as well. So really good few weeks stretched there, and now we're back to normal, which is great.
Yes. Awesome, man. Thank you again. Appreciate you guys. You can follow Tom on Twitter at Tom Jacobs 93. You can follow me at Skyhook DFS. Again, all the love is appreciated on the podcast platforms and on YouTube. So thanks again, everybody, and good luck at the Open Championship, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks. Take care.
Thanks, guys.